After 3 weeks of less than stellar football offensively, what do we think has been the biggest or most glaring issue with Bo Nix's start to his sophomore campaign? What should Sean Payton's priority list be in terms of things to fix before Monday night showdown with a reeling Bengals team? And for the Denver Nuggets, is this a situation we are finding them now in a legitimate championship or bust window, given the roster moves that they made and what they have in front of them? All things to come on today's rundown, but we begin with a special shout out to our friends at Denver Regenerative Medicine. Guys, if weight loss has been a struggle for you, it's time for something real. At Denver Regenerative Medicine, they use full-strength GLP-1 medications with doctor oversight. You can start today with a free consultation and get real results for under $300 a month. Book now at denverregen.com. We begin today's show with a discussion about the Denver Broncos that has been kind of an ongoing theme of sorts through the first 3 weeks of the season, and one, frankly, that I don't think a lot of us, or certainly many of us, thought we would be having, at least not to the degree that it has unfolded, and that is the slower than desired and eerily familiar start to the 2025 season as compared to the start of the 2024 season and the start of the 2023 season in Sean Payton's first year here in Denver, which can pretty commonly be characterized as slow. Things seem disjointed and clunky offensively. There doesn't seem to be really any established rhythm or continuity or flow to the offense. It's very choppy and disjointed in nature, and I think that hinders the offense's ability to find a consistent flow within the game and be able to operate with any sort of rhythm and timing from play to play, series to series, etc. That could be contributing in ways, I think, to the lack of efficiency in the run game, and all the personnel changes and substitutions that are coming in and out certainly don't seem to help that issue either. But beyond all of that, deeper beneath the surface, there seems to be a significant change or a shift as it relates to Bo Nix. He seems less comfortable. He seems more erratic, perhaps even less confident at times than the quarterback that we saw through the back half of the 2024 season, and even leading into a Bills playoff game where, yes, the final score indicated justly so, that the Broncos got waxed by a significantly better quarterback and better team in the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. But this start to the 2025 season looks much more similarly than his first three starts in the NFL, or much more similar to his first three starts in the NFL than I think I certainly expected it to. So as we go into this ongoing evaluation with Bo Nix, we have to ask ourselves the question, what's wrong right now with Bo, and why doesn't it look like he is taking a next step and that have it manifesting itself into a more cohesive and fluid and faster paced, higher scoring offensive output than what we've seen through the first 3 weeks of 2025. And I think the more that you watch it, the more that it seems to kind of boil down to a couple of different factors, but one significant one being his footwork. It appears that more often than not, he is out on the move in the pocket and flushed out to try to make plays with his legs and extend it to be able to make a play downfield. He's throwing off platform, meaning that his feet aren't set necessarily the way that they would be if he was throwing comfortably from a stationary position within the pocket. And that leads to accuracy and touch issues. It leads to overthrows and underthrows, which we saw three of a significant nature last week against the Colts. And it's not just me who thinks this. Take a look at what Dan Orlovsky, ESPN NFL analyst, told our Stokely and Evans with Mark Schlereth yesterday morning about that exact subject of Bo's footwork and whether or not it's a concern through the first month of the season. Dan said, quote, "I would say it's a pretty legitimate concern through 3 weeks. This is something that screams to me a comfort level. This is something that screams to me a thinking level. and it feels like there's an overload going on in his mind. It's correctable, yes, but I think it's more of getting him to calm down than saying, hey, you can't play. And I think that last part there is an important distinction or thing to note within this conversation, which is that even though the start to Bo Nix's 2025 season hasn't really looked the way that certainly many of us expected to, or definitely many of us wanted it to, as he continues to grow and progress as a potential franchise quarterback for the Broncos, I do believe that the issues that we are seeing thus far are more fixable in nature than other issues that could be going on with young quarterbacks and have statistically been dealt with by young quarterbacks. And that's because, to me, Bo Nix's struggles thus far in the 2025 season seem to be happening from the neck down. It feels like a body mechanics issue more so than a neck up issue, a cerebral issue with reading and identifying defenses, finding the open man, making progressions through the reads. To me, it feels like there's more of a disconnect or an issue from a physical perspective of Bo executing what he determines in his brain to be the right play in real time during the play on the field than it is to be about making the mental and snap decision about what to do when the football is placed in his hands. And I do think that that is a more correctable issue to fix things from the neck down than it is from the neck up. Because if really what we're talking about here to get Bo Nix back to looking like he did from weeks 11 to 18 of the 2024 season, where he was a legitimate and bona fide rookie of the year candidate, is finding a way for him to kind of quiet the storm and calm things down within his own mind, and then allow him through that to set his feet better, to make throws from the pocket where he has the ability to plant himself properly, and you don't have touch issue overthrows, twice to Marvin Mims and once to Courtland Sutton, all three of which could have individually perhaps helped ice the game for the Broncos and prevent them from going to 1-2. It would allow him to have a better command of the offense and be able to work through progressions more cleanly when not flushed out of the pocket, which blocking has to hold up, and there's other factors that go into that. But if what we're talking about at its core that Dan Orlovsky references there is that there is a trying to do too much and maybe a mental overload with Bo Nix that is preventing him from physically maximizing the God-given talent that he has and the ability and skill set that we saw last season, that to me is more correctable in nature than if these issues were from the neck up and it was a processing and a mental acumen error versus the physical. Shifting gears to the Denver Nuggets, ESPN's top 100 list came out, and there was a significantly prominent Nuggets presence on that list. When looking at the top 100 in mass, you had 6 total players starting at the literal top with Nikola Jokic, who was ranked number 1 overall in the NBA by ESPN heading into the 2025 season. Aaron Gordon checks in at number 40, curiously ahead of Jamal Murray, who's been the 2 in the 1-2 punch here in Denver in the second half of one of the better two-man games in recent NBA history. Christian Brown checks in outside the top 50 at 62, followed very shortly after by the newest Nuggets starter, Cameron Johnson. And then number 87, Jonas Valanciunas, one of the more intriguing and dramatic offseason acquisitions for the Nuggets, given the trade that was made with Sacramento and the potential to play overseas for Panathinaikos in Greece. But there in front of you, you see 6 players on the 2025 Denver Nuggets roster who check in the top 90 of the ESPN's top 100 NBA players going into this season. 6 in the top 90. And the former Nugget who came in a handful of years ago and was now shipped out during the Cam Johnson trade, and Michael Porter Jr. checked in at number 70 on this list. So really only ahead of the newest Nuggets backup 4 and 5, Jonas Valanciunas, in terms of NBA ranking and perception of their overall game heading into the season. That's a lot of representation in a top 100 list. To have 6% of a list that can be composed of 10 to 15 different players from 30 different teams. So the pool that this list is composed of, the amount of available candidates who have an opportunity to make this list, to have 6 Denver Nuggets make ESPN's top 100 list speaks volumes about where this team is at, the strength and the logic behind their offseason acquisitions, 2 of which made this top 100 list. It really seems to drive home a point to me that the Denver Nuggets are heading into a season in 2025 where the expectation and the pressure to succeed, and not succeed as in make a postseason appearance, not succeed as in secure a top 4 seed in the Western Conference, not succeed as in make a Western Conference final appearance, but the pressure to succeed in a manner that manifests itself with an NBA Finals appearance is as high as it's been since they won the title in the 2022-2023 season. The two major bench acquisitions in Jonas Valanciunas and then a combo of Bruce Brown and Tim Hardaway Jr. 2 of those 3 are on 1-year vet minimum deals. And Jonas Valanciunas only has likely 1 more year guaranteed on his contract that was inherited by the Sacramento Kings. And given the offseason drama and the discourse that happened with the potential to play overseas in Greece, there may not be a lot of opportunity for, or a lot of desire from Jonas Valanciunas to want to stay in Denver for longer than a year or maybe 2. You've got decisions coming up that we talked about with Jake Shapiro yesterday on this show surrounding Christian Brown and the pending contract extension that he may receive. Nikola Jokic himself is 1 season away from a significant contract extension being doled out to him the way that Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon had contract extensions headed their way this past season. It feels like during these peak years of Nikola Jokic's ascension and rise to dominance in the NBA, that every year has added scrutiny and pressure to perform and to win a championship, especially now that the seal has been broken and they are no longer a franchise that has never reached that mountaintop. But this season in particular for the Denver Nuggets seems to carry even more magnitude and weight on its shoulders to make something happen, because despite how difficult it is to win a title in any sport, but specifically with basketball and specifically in the gauntlet of the Western Conference, knowing that it's not an easy task doesn't make it any less relevant or important or change the fact that this Nuggets squad only has a limited number of opportunities, in my mind, left to do so. Title windows can be a very fickle thing, and so many outside factors beyond what goes on within the confines of your organization can have profound impacts on what you're able to do and how far you're able to go, even if everything internally for you breaks the way that you'd like it to. So when you've got a situation where the Denver Nuggets heading into 2025 have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but to go full LeBron James, 6 players in the top 100, including a reserve acquisition player in Jonas Valanciunas and a player who you just acquired from the Brooklyn Nets in Cam Johnson, and all of them appearing in the top 90, this roster does not have a talent problem. It has had health problems in the past that have hurt the overall talent, especially from a depth perspective. But this roster doesn't have a talent problem. This roster no longer, at least on paper, which is all we have to go on right now, have a depth problem. But it does have a closing window problem. And that is why there is so much pressure in my mind for the Denver Nuggets to return to the NBA Finals and give themselves a legitimate chance to bring home a second championship trophy, because we just don't know how much longer this is going to last. Nikola Jokic going into this 2025 season is the favorite to win the MVP award, and if in doing so, he would become just the sixth player in NBA history to accomplish 4 MVPs within the course of an NBA career. He continues to find ways to find rarer and more lofty comparisons to be drawn to him year in and year out and set the bar even higher for himself in ways that is hard to genuinely put into words at times. But his greatness alone, as we've seen and has been evidenced by the banging of their heads against that ceiling that was the second round for so many years, and then the Western Conference Final for a couple of seasons as well. It is not enough alone to be able to climb that mountaintop. But collectively, when you're looking at Nikola Jokic, the best player in basketball, Aaron Gordon, voted a top 50 player in basketball, number 40. Jamal Murray inside the top 50. Christian Brown in the early 60s. Cam Johnson in the late 60s. Jonas Valanciunas inside the top 90. All of those 6, plus the MVP favorite, plus the second best odds to make it out of the Western Conference, and the second best odds to win the NBA title behind only the juggernaut defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder and the reigning MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Combined with the depth pieces that they have in place, bringing back Bruce Brown, adding Tim Hardaway Jr., bringing in Jonas Valanciunas to have a multifaceted role and potential to be inserted into the starting lineup alongside Jokic as a 4, or come in and spell Jokic in reserve as the best backup 5 that the Nuggets have maybe ever had since Nikola Jokic, as Jake Shapiro pointed out, was the backup 5 to Jusuf Nurkic. All of these factors come crashing together into this 2025 season to say that the pressure is on, and the Nuggets may not have a better opportunity from here forward to win an NBA title than they do right now in the 2025 season, which is maybe a month away from really getting going. It's going to be a fascinating thing to keep tabs on all fall long, including and leading up to a big weekend of college football where CU and BYU kick off Big 12 play here in Colorado in a serious slate. I know they played Houston, but the serious slate of Big 12 football comes now with no more interruptions from Delaware and Wyoming and any other competition. This is where the rubber's going to meet the road for CU. And given the fact that they have a number of ranked opponents on their schedule in the immediate future, from TCU to Iowa State and BYU, it could get very late, very early for Colorado. And this game this weekend will be a litmus test and an opportunity for us to take stock in what the remainder of this college football season may look like up there in Boulder. And the Broncos, fresh off of a second consecutive walk-off loss to the Chargers and previously the Colts, now get an opportunity in prime time to take on a Bengals team that looks significantly different than it did just a couple of weeks ago, as Joe Burrow goes down for a minimum of 12 weeks with a turf toe injury, and Jake Browning, the veteran backup for the Bengals, comes into action for Monday Night Football here in Denver. And I don't even want to call this a slump buster game for the Broncos, because I don't think that they can take any opponent for granted. But similarly to what I said about the Buffs, the Broncos finding a way to get back into a rhythm, for Bo Nix to clear his mind and empty all of the noise and get back to playing the kind of football he was playing in 2024, especially on the back half here in 2025. The opportunity to do that against the Bengals and what it could mean for the rest of the Broncos schedule going forward, where over the next couple of months, there aren't really any games that you can consider give-me's or in that category, because the Broncos haven't proven themselves, especially offensively, to be worthy of that designation. And so this game against the Bengals is probably the most winnable game remaining on their schedule. And the fact that it's in prime time, the fact that they have an extra day to prepare for it, but then short week thereafter to take on the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles, says to me that the importance to get back on track and figure out how to smooth things out defensively. They've done a lot of bending, and they've just broken at the wrong time there at the end for 2 consecutive weeks, and almost for a 3rd consecutive week if you count some of the end of game dramatics with the Titans. They've done a lot of bending, and they've broken in the end on defense, and offensively, they haven't even really gotten going. We got news that Evan Ingram was back at practice today, and what that could mean if they can get another weapon in the passing game out there and available for Sean Payton and for Bo Nix to be able to scheme up things the way that Sean did against the Colts, despite a failure of execution to capitalize them. Just so much going on here. The Avs in the midst of training camp this week as they prepare for another potential cup run with a team that is much more settled and gelled than it was post-trade deadline last season with all the moves that were made. There's just a ton going on here in Colorado to keep tabs on, and we have it all here for you at Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. So stay locked in on the air to Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan from 6 a.m. all the way to Denver Sports Tonight from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Head to denversports.com and check out all the great work from Jake Shapiro, Will Peterson, Trent Finnegan, Andrew Mason, and the wealth of knowledgeable and credible writers that we have on our staff covering all Denver sports across the Front Range for you. And like and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can continue to interact during live shows like this, like The Rundown, like Denver Sports Daily with Joey, and Orange and Blue Today with Andrew Mason and Cecil Lammy, plus the reinvigoration, the reintroduction of the Mile High Hoops and Mile High Hockey podcasts, which are off and running and will be for the entirety of hockey and basketball seasons. We've got it all there for you 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. In the meantime, we will catch you at noon for tomorrow's Rundown.
I do what I love what I do. Second nature to put in the work.